On July 26th of this year, Ashtabula County Grand Jury, a meeting in a secret session, indicted 67 persons regarding cases involving the illegal assembly of methamphetamine, or illegal assembly of products associated with the manufacture of meth, and the actual manufacture of methamphetamine. That just gives you some indication of the severity of the problem that we have in Ashtabula County with meth. It is indigenous in this area for some reason. We had a real big run of it 8 years ago. The judges put a lot of people in prison. Those people started getting out after 3 or 4 years. And coincidentally, there was the development of the one-pot or shake-and-bake method of making methamphetamine. And the coincidence of all of those factors have created, for some reason that any sane person can't fathom, as to why anybody would want to use this stuff to begin with, why they would want to manufacture it in such a way that it would perhaps blow up in their lap, which has happened on a couple of occasions in the county. We have a house that's been burned to the ground. We have a nursing home fire where a person was killed. We've had a couple of other occasions because of the extreme explosiveness of this one-pot method of making meth. All that being said, over the last 9 months or so, through the diligent efforts of several individuals and law enforcement agencies that I'll mention here in a minute, we've been able to track and put together a trying to think of the right word, a series of purchases of pseudoephedrine by people over a course of periods of time. We're able to track them by the meticulous examination of records, by computerized records that are becoming more and more available in this area, to determine that these people are buying beyond what the law allows. And once confronted with those purchases, for the most part, they will agree or acknowledge that they were buying them in order to give them to persons and to manufacture meth. In my way of thinking, and in the way we are going to prosecute these cases, those persons are not only illegally assembling chemicals for the manufacture of methamphetamine, but they are complicit in the manufacture itself. Because if they know that what they're doing and what they're buying is going to be used to make meth, they are helping that person make meth. They're aiding and abetting. Those are the old language. The new language is complicit in the manufacture. So, as a result of that investigative effort that covered about 9 months, subsequent to an earlier similar type of investigative act, we held that special grand jury on July 26th and indicted these 67 people. We then scheduled for today a roundup of those people and serving of the warrants that were executed on that day. And as a result, this morning at about 5 a.m., approximately 120 law enforcement officers comprising of about 26 or 27 law enforcement agencies, ambulance districts, BCI, federal, state, and local agencies met at Spire Institute for a purpose of getting together before going out and attempting to execute these arrest warrants. So we did that, and at about 6 a.m. They all left and they began executing the warrants. I'm sure the press is interested in what our final numbers were, and I can tell you that out of the 67 indictments that were handed down, 43 warrants were served this morning. 5 additional persons were arrested as a result of their being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place at the wrong time as far as we're concerned. And 2 additional persons were arrested on outstanding warrants. So there was a total of 50 bodies that were arrested this morning as a result of that. We still have approximately 18 persons that have not been arrested yet on these warrants, and all of the law enforcement agencies will be acting on those active warrants and attempting to apprehend those persons as quickly as possible. In addition to the 50 persons arrested this morning, 5 methamphetamine laboratories were uncovered. And just to show you the problem that we have in Ashtabula County, the largest county by area in the state of Ohio, one lab was in Andover, one lab was in Orwell, one lab was in Saybrook Township or Austinburg area, and one was in Ashtabula City, and one was in Conneaut. And we had to have cleanup crews from BC&I, the Lake County Narcotics Cleanup Unit, all helped and cooperated in cleaning up those labs. All of those labs and the persons associated with them will lead to additional charges as we go through the evidence and the materials that we got this morning. So that's it. What I want to do now is to acknowledge the efforts of certain individuals. First of all, I want to thank, on behalf of the citizens of Ashtabula County, I want to thank each and every law enforcement agency, each and every law enforcement officer, support personnel, BCI, the U.S. Marshal's Office, DEA, Northwest Ambulance District, Saybrook Township Fire Department, all of these people who showed up this morning and answered the call to deal with and at least put a dent in, or attempt to put a dent in, this very profound problem that we have in Ashtabula County in methamphetamine. This by no means solves the problem, but hopefully through this entire operation, our real purpose ultimately is to send a message to the public out there, these people that are using this, that are making this stuff, endangering not only themselves, but their children, their families, and just regular citizens who might find this residue from labs along the streets and that kind of thing, could cause fires, damage. Basically arson is a result of these labs exploding in persons' homes and so forth. The purpose of we're sending a message, and I will tell you that I have taken a very strong stance on, as the local agencies will know, and as the courts have found out, that my office is taking a very strong stance on methamphetamine. We are not negotiating them. We are asking, once we convict them, that the courts send these people to prison, not to jail. These are all F2s and F3s. The F2s are have associated with mandatory prison time, and I think our judges are beginning to send these people to prison. For instance, Donna Digmiller here is doing 6 years in prison. There was another, yeah, Rebecca Hezebek says she just sentenced to 3 years yesterday. Several of these people are awaiting sentencing on other cases. This gentleman, Robert Mullen, is doing a year, and he's going to be doing a lot more when we get done with him on the charges that he was charged with today. This gentleman here, Keith Bilbrey, I don't know if his name's familiar to any of you or not, but he was involved in the nursing home fire that resulted in the death of his compatriot whose lab blew up in his lab in the nursing home. And he was arrested this morning on additional charges. So we're starting to send these people to prison, and I'm hoping that after today's operation and any subsequent operations that we will be conducting similar to this to continue to go after this problem, that people will start to see the light and try to find another way of living their lives and not having to rely on methamphetamine or the highs that they get on methamphetamine. So at this point, I do want to recognize and give special thanks to Lieutenant Tim Brown. Where's Tim? Back here. Of the Madison Township Police Department. He kind of spearheaded the investigation because he was also involved in a similar operation 9 or 10 or 11 months ago. Captain Greg Wiley of the Geneva PD, where's Greg? He also worked hand in hand with Tim. Patrolman Anthony Wood of the Jefferson Village PD, right here, Tony. Sergeant Brian Sterick of the Geneva on the Lake Police Department. And Detective Brian Rose the Ashtabula County Sheriff's Office. I don't know if Brian's
still on the cleanup.
He's on a cleanup. And also I want to thank my three of my assistant prosecutors, in particular my Chief Assistant Harold Speck, Sue Thomas, and Cecilia Cooper, who also worked hand in hand with those 5 individuals. But I don't want it to, I don't want you to think that those were the only people involved. They were the ones that did the hands-on, day in, day out work. And I appreciate Sheriff Bill Johnson, Chief Dan Dudek for permitting their personnel to spend the days and times and hours necessary to track these purchases and to get them so that we are in a position to indict them and now in a position to prosecute them and hopefully send them to prison for significant periods of time. And the handout I gave you, on the 3rd page, there were a list of participating agencies, and just to give you some idea of the cooperation and how these calls are answered by law enforcement. In addition to those names, the Perry Police Department, North Perry Police Department, the East Lake Police Department, Mentor-on-the-Lake PD, Ashtabula City Fire Department, Saybrook and Austinburg Townships Fire Department, and the Northwest Ambulance District also participated this morning. Every single one of them played a significant part in this operation and made it as successful as it is today, as it was, because I do believe that this was a very, very successful operation. I'm very, very pleased. The work comes now from my office to get these people convicted, and we are going to work just as diligently as law enforcement has worked over the past 9 or 10 months to get it to this position. So I hope I didn't forget anything or anybody. But that's about all I have to say. Most of the TV stations, some of them were out, had footage. I did have a videographer that I hired to go out with some of the units this morning because I wasn't sure whether or not the TV stations, in fact, I was kind of discouraging it, but I lost control of that. So to some of the media, I apologize, and others, you know, good for you, I guess, you got out there. But I do have discs of the footage that this videographer ran, and you're welcome to it. There's about a half-hour of footage on various raids that were done this morning. So you're welcome to them, to edit them however you want, and use them if you want. So I'll give you those. Okay. Sheriff Johnson, do you have anything to say?
No, we're just going to be arraigning people most of the day, most of the afternoon. And that's all. I want to thank everybody for all their assistance.
Okay. Chief Dudek?
I'd really like to thank Tim Brown, Chief Belcazo, for continuing the operation from last year and bringing on both Geneva-on-the-Lake and Jefferson Police Department to make this really a success. Thank you.
Chief? I have all the chiefs here, so you got to give the chiefs something to say in front of the Indians.
I just thank the guys who were involved in it. You guys did a great job.
Just to reiterate what everybody's saying, thanks everybody for helping. Couldn't have done without you. Brian put in a lot of time of his own free time too.
I will also like to announce that tomorrow, for 12 hours from 10 to 10, is my understanding, there's going to be a follow-up operation, enforcement operation on the streets of Ashtabula County. Is that true, Lieutenant?
Yes.
And there'll be several agencies participating in that, and who knows what we'll catch there, but seems like we catch a lot of meth labs in cars these days when traffic stops are made, but there'll be some follow-up enforcement. It won't be this type of search warrants being served, but there would be a very, very high-profile enforcement operation on the streets of Ashtabula County tomorrow. So I'm all done. I know you always have questions, so I'll try to take them and answer them, and if not, I'll defer to somebody else who can answer. Yes?
Just to start some clarification points and ask some questions. I imagine everybody else does too. So is this one group? Do they all know each other? Are they all working together? Or are these separate groups independent of each other?
Well, they're all independents, but if you put them all in a room, they'd all be shaking hands saying hello to each other because they all kind of know each other, and they all, you go from one lab to another or one place to another, and this person will be there today, and then this will be there tomorrow, and it's that kind of thing. I can't say that they all know each other for sure, but they all know of each other, and so it's not like it's one huge conspiracy. These are a bunch of individuals, you know, ruining themselves and ruining their lives on methamphetamine.
Okay, and with that said, who are these people? There's about 80 faces up there. You indicted 67. Some are in prison, some aren't. I'm a little confused as to who they are.
Well, the 67 that we indicted are up here, and some additional ones that have been already convicted down at Big Miller, as I suggested, so forth. What we're trying to do here is, if she wasn't in prison, we'd be rounding her up. But when this was done, they got sentenced during the course of the investigation. So we put them up here anyway, so that because they're all part of the process. And I want to be able to point out that people are going to prison. This is not a jail. They're going to prison. 6 years in prison is not a short stretch.
But some of those might be the 43 that are arrested today, and the other 14 might still be out there wanted.
Right. There are, I think, what we say, 18 or so that are still out there on the streets that we didn't get this morning. But they always have a way of popping up, so I'm sure that we'll find them. They don't travel very far, generally speaking. They travel amongst their own groups here. Roger.
When it comes down to the prosecution of it, Mr. Sartini, because I know that's going to be your next step, and I'm assuming you're going to be very aggressive with pushing for some serious prison time for these folks, because they've been out on the streets plaguing this area for a while. You talked about the F2 and the F1s. Can you explain how you're going to go after them then in court? I mean, is there a difference between those, just so people understand?
Well, there's a difference in degree of the felony.
Correct.
The felony, they each can carry additional or different prison sentences. An F2 in these kinds of cases will get bumped up to an F1 if they're manufacturing in the vicinity of a child, for instance. And we had a case this morning where there's kids, and we see that more and more, unfortunately, that children are home when live meth labs are being, so there's an enhancement there. F3 is just the illegal assembly of chemicals for the manufacture. If that's all you did, that's an F3. Okay, but then if you actually manufacture, that becomes an F2 and has mandatory, I think, 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. F1 is mandatory.
Okay, so they're looking at least 4 years. Now,
well, yeah.
with an F2.
Just the F3, for instance, has a presumption of prison. It doesn't mean that the judge must send them. But what we want to do is convict them of these F3s, F2s, and F1s, and then I don't have any control over sentencing. We can ask the judge to send them for the max, but it's always up to the judge what the sentence will be.
And is that what you're going to stress for, is the maximum on these?
Well, depending on the case, if we have somebody who wants to come in and plead to an F2 without putting us through a trial and all of that, perhaps we'll recommend something less than the maximum, but we want them to go to prison for some period.
Okay, one last question then. I know years ago the meth labs used to have a lot more to them than the shake and bake method. Since the shake and bake method has seemed to become more popular in Ashtabula County, or am I just assuming that? Has it then spread quicker than you've seen in years past?
Well, it didn't start in Ashtabula County. I'm not sure where it started, but it's throughout the county and throughout the state of Ohio, and in fact, throughout the country. I read articles all of the time.
Well, correct. But what I'm asking is, are you seeing more of an influx now that it's a little easier to make?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, because our meth problem today is a lot worse than it was about 8 years ago. We had a bad one then, but it was always, you had to find the lab. It was usually in a barn someplace because it required, a whole setup of chemical stuff. Now they buy this stuff and put it together right in their home in a 2-liter Coke bottle, and we've had them explode. If you ever seen one of those, if you ever a chance to watch a demonstration, that stuff is sparking in there, and if water happens to hit it, because of the nature of the chemicals, it explodes.
Can you talk about where some of the warrants were served in the county? Was it all 4 corners?
All over the county. All over the county.
Good addresses?
Pardon?
Addresses?
Do I have them? I personally don't have the addresses, but I don't know. I guess we'd have them someplace. I'm not sure that, are you going to go visit them?
Yes.
They're in jail, so you don't.
Your neighbors will react.
I don't know. We probably can come up with a couple of addresses for you.
What is the limit on how much Sudafed you can buy per month or per you're keeping track of it in a database.
So what I
people
said,
are nowadays are showing their driver's license, are they gonna, if they have to sign a suspension, get arrested?
3.6 grams.
I'm sorry?
9 grams a month or 3.6 grams a day is the maximum you can buy.
30 pills a year.
30 pills or what?
30 pills for a year of Sudafed. That's behind the counter.
30 pills per year?
I'm sorry, can we go over the numbers one more time? You said 67 were indicted?
67 indictments were handed
Okay,
down.
and then 43 people on those.
43 of those 67 were arrested.
Okay, so you have another 24 to get?
Yes, there's 24, but 5 new people were picked up on new charges and 2 on outstanding warrants that went there.
Okay, so you still have 24 more to get, and then you had 7 others who were picked up.
Right.
Did you have any search warrants?
I'm not sure we even executed maybe 1 search warrant. I'm not sure we even did a search warrant, no. These were all arrest warrants. We were in a position to obtain search warrants if it became necessary, but we didn't have to.
Is there any particular part of the county where there was a concentration of warrants? Fully distributed?
Boy, I don't know. It's so pervasive that I can't tell you. I can't say that it's more pervasive in Asheville City and Geneva or in outlying areas. I mean, it is everywhere. We find these people everywhere. And
they represent just about every corner of the county.
absolutely. Well, you saw that the 5 labs were Andover, Orwell City, Asheville City, Conneaut City, Saybrook. So it's a big county.
If anyone resisted arrest this morning, were all the arrests made?
Well, we caught them when they were still a little groggy at 6 a.m. and I don't think there were many resisting issues out there, but certainly there was enough personnel that if there was any resistance, it probably went unnoticed.
Did you guys come away with anything else, like other drugs or any weapons, illegal weapons?
There were some weapons. You have to understand that people on meth are probably the most paranoid people you'll ever meet. And most of them, a lot of them have security cameras, dogs, weapons because of their paranoia. And generally, we used to find a lot more weapons, but shake and bake method, now these people are driving around with these labs in their cars and generally you don't find a lot of weapons, but I'm sure there were some weapons confiscated this morning. I don't have a final.
As a point of clarification, the officers went out with warrants today and they discovered the 5 labs. They didn't know they were there.
In the process of serving these arrest warrants, they came upon the labs.
Sorry, are they just feeding their own habits, or are they really marketing and distributing?
All of the above. You know, some people will buy the stuff to make it and then sell it, or buy it and trade for meth. You know, most all of the people involved are on meth. Some of them are making it also and distributing it to other people. And they send people out to buy the pseudoephedrine for them, and they swap it for meth, finished product. Okay. Going once. Thank you very much. Thanks you again, guys.